Hey guys, so I'm just going to show you how to do a super simple REST API with Express, RethinkDB, and an ORM for RethinkDB called Thinky. So for the front end of this, just to make it a little bit nicer, we're going to run Ampersand's generator, and that gives you sort of a front end to interact with the fake API that they provide, and then we're just going to build out the real API from there. So to do that, first need to have Node.js or io.js installed. You'll need to have RethinkDB installed. You can see the instructions in the description for the video. So once you've done all that, you want to just run the ampersand command in the directory that you want to, set up your project. So name the folder whatever you want. And make sure you choose Express here. Enter your name or whatever you feel like. So that made that folder. Actually already generated this and installed the dependencies because it takes a super long time on my internet connection. So you'll see I have Thinky API, so we're just going to go into that one. So you've got almost everything you need, but you do need to install Thinky. And Thinky is good because it installs the ORM Thinky, but it also installs the Node.js driver for Thinky, which is RethinkDB dash. So I'll just wait for this to happen, and then we'll be ready to start coding. So the methods that we're going to make for this REST API is just super basic CRUD, which is create, read, update, destroy. So I'm sure everyone watching is pretty familiar with that. So let's open this up. I'm going to use Sublime Text for this because I'm not quite good enough with Vim yet to show it off in a video. So you can see we have our fake API here. It's pretty simple. Just basic methods. List, add, get, delete, update. So we're just going to get rid of all this stuff, as well as this helper method. And we're going to start here. So the first thing you want to do is, actually the first thing I want to do is type use strict so JS hint relaxes. And from there, we're going to make sure you require Thinky. And when you require Thinky, you also want to pass a config. So I'll show you how that's done. So Thinky right now takes three options: a host, a port, and a DB. So to keep this simple, I'm just going to do localhost, port, this is actually the port that you connect to RethinkDB on, not the port you want your app served on. That'll be in your actual server.js file. So the default port for RethinkDB is 28015, and then DB, you can just give whatever name you want. We're going to call it people just to keep it consistent with the models we're going to make, or the one model I should say. You also want to keep a reference to this R object inside Thinky, and this lets you reference methods that are in RethinkDB dash. Since we didn't include RethinkDB dash, this is just a way to access it. So, kind of like Mongoose, if you've ever used that for dealing with MongoDB, we're going to create a model. We'll name it people, just to make it easy for ourselves to remember what we're dealing with. And so our front end is expecting a first name, a last name, a coolness factor, and we're going to add a date. It doesn't expect a date, but I'm just going to show you how to use Thinky's references to the R object and stuff like that. So if you've ever used Mongoose, this will perform just simple validations on it. You sort of saying what type a piece of data is. So the date thing is a little bit trickier. I'm going to say type date, and we're going to set a default for this because we want the server to generate it. and see we're calling r.now, which is a method inside RethinkDB dash. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple to make models in RethinkDB. There's a couple extra things you can do. One of them is ensuring an index for ordering. So the command is just your model name.ensure index. We're going to use date, like I mentioned. You can also define your relations in there, but that's a little bit out of the scope of this. So list is super simple. This will just list all the people in the database. So to start off, we want to access our model. I'm going to call this order by method. And you can already see where we're using that index that we defined. So we're going to do it in descending order by the date. And I know I'm typing pretty slowly, but recording a video and typing on a 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2010 doesn't really work too well. So you can see this ORM's promise-based from all this sort of function chaining we're doing. But yeah, so basically you say how you want to get the data, you run it, and you define what to do after. And in the function we take people, and we're just going to respond with people since it's an object, and that'll work out. That'll give us all the people. And you also want to explain what happens in the case of an error. And for error, I like to return it a little differently than return people, because in the response for people we just return the object. This one I like to say message error. So that's our list method. It's pretty simple. We'll move on to our add method. So to add a person is actually really amazingly simple using this. So we're just going to say var person equals new people. And we're going to pass the request body as like into our constructor for a new version of our model. And then you're just going to save it. So you do person.save, .then function. Save actually needs to have brackets. So I'm going to say result, since we're just going to get back the object we just inserted. So response.json result, and then handle the error. And we're going to handle errors pretty similarly throughout this. So we're just going to respond the exact same way as we did in the other one. So that's our logic for adding someone. Let's do getting. Getting's pretty simple. So it's a lot like you would do it in Mongoose or sort of any other RM for a NoSQL database. So we're going to get from the parameters that we pass an ID, because even though we didn't specify it in the model that we made, RethinkDB will automatically add a UUID to each of your models as the primary key, unless you tell something else to be the primary key. So primary key is the ID, and there's one for all of our models. So since we're just returning one person from this, I'm just going to call it person just to make it easy. So response.json, the person, and then handle the error again. So that one's pretty straightforward. Delete is a little bit more complicated, but it's still pretty simple. It's pretty similar to get, since you have to get a person before you can delete them. So we're actually just going to copy and paste all of this to start off with and put it in there. But after we've retrieved the person we're looking for, we're going to do it a little bit differently. So in here, we're going to run person.delete, and then we're just going to let the whoever know in the response the name of the document that was deleted. So we're going to do response.json, the result. There's also an error case for this one, so we need to find that one as well. This will be the error. Oops. This will be the error that means we couldn't delete it for some reason. And then the other error is if we just couldn't find the document. So sorry for the slow typing. This might be a little boring for you guys, but my computers are like chugging along slowly here. So yeah, that's the delete case. Update. Again, everything's been pretty simple so far. So this one is also pretty simple, but we're going to do it in kind of a verbose way, just so you get the idea of what's going on here. So again, we're going to get the user by the ID, run the query, and then tell it what to do. So since it's a put request, not a patch, we're going to handle some cases. You could make this a little nicer using the ternary operator, but for the sake of the tutorial, we'll just do it like this. It's alright. So what we're doing is we're saying if there is whatever data in the request body, then update it, otherwise leave it the same. And if anything goes wrong here, it's because I can't see what I'm typing as I type it. It's little values after. So if there's a coolness factor, update the coolness factor. Otherwise, just leave it alone, leave it the same. You don't actually have to parse int here, I'm pretty sure. But when I was teaching myself how to do this, the resource I learned from said it was a good idea. Since you are passing a number into the database and it expects a number, it's a good idea to check for it, so should probably do that. And here we're going to update the date no matter what to r.now, so you can kind of keep track of when it was last updated. And since we've updated the person, we've got to save them again, and our saving logic is the exact same as when you add a new user. And yeah, we're just going to basically echo the result in the response, as we've been doing. Oops. Now it's not person, that's result. So you can see we're almost done here. Just got to handle our last error. Okay, do a couple semicolons, and and I think we're good to go. So let's check out our server.js file just for reference. So most of this stuff is, just a whole bunch of sort of things Ampersand's created for us for testing, path normalization, serving the public stuff. So what we're worried about here is our little demo API, which is now a real API. So we require it, and we use the new, I think it's as of Express 4, but I don't know for sure, way of defining endpoints. So you can see we can get at these two endpoints. So there's the endpoint, and then there's the payload, or the method we're calling. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you can figure out how to define new ones. So yeah, we can run this by running npm start. So let's do that. But first, you're going to want to make sure you have RethinkDB running. So we'll start it up, and we'll see what happens. So wait for the server to start. It might throw errors, I'm not sure. I might have typed something wrong in there. But it'll give us a message, if that is the case. So it looked like it didn't have any syntax errors. Let's see what happens when we actually start running the app. So I just got to drag my browser window over. So I'll wait for it to load. So now you'll get to see the front end for our app, the default one that Ampersand builds. It's kind of cool if it'll ever, load and render and everything. All right, so here we go. Let's check out our collection demo, and let's just open the console to see if there's any errors. So right away we're getting 500 error. We're seeing r.tablePeople has no method order rebuy. So I definitely spelled something wrong, so let's go ahead and fix that. We'll restart our server, and then everything should be working all right. So I guess that's what happens when you can't see what you've typed until about 5 seconds later. So hopefully next time I make one of these, I can use some better hardware. Alright, so it's restarted. Let's refresh the page, and see what we get. So our get request worked. We have nothing in our database, of course. So let's add a few random people. Add another one, and another one. So posting looks like it works. We'll check our console. No errors, so that's always a good sign. Let's refresh to make sure they've stayed. And refreshing is pretty lengthy, but my computer's really struggling. So it looked like it worked. Let's test out our put request. Make this me. But I did a typo, so let's turn this way down. So putting looks like it worked. Let's delete, and we should be good. If we refresh it, then everything worked out. We should get myself and Angela Rosen, or Rossum. So yeah, looks like everything's good. So yeah, that is doing a simple REST API with Express, RethinkDB, Thinky, and Ampersand 2. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or hit me up on Twitter. You can find my Twitter username in the video description. So yeah, thanks.